Okay. Meeting is now live streaming. We got it. Okay. All right, guys. Today we are in First Corinthians 11. I've been having so much fun with you guys. Thank you so much for being here. Oh, there's like something just scratched my nose. All right. First Corinthians 11, 1. Be followers of me, even as I also am of Christ. Okay, guys, this doesn't mean Paul's not saying like do what I do. He's like, be a follower of me. What is being a follower of him? Plugged in, right? Plugged in. Follow me in my example as somebody who's plugged in, not my behavior, not what I do, plugged in. Now I praise you, brethren, that ye remember me in all things and keep the ordinance as I deliver them to you. But I would have you know that the head of every man is Christ, and the head of every woman is the man, and the head of Christ is God. Okay, guys, let's talk about this a little bit. Because remember, I'm 100% human and 100% spirit. And I'm already integrated. And my consciousness evolves through being born into Adam, my human, being raised as Christ. Okay. That's the alchemy of consciousness, being born into Adam, being raised as Christ. Okay. So, but I will have you know that every head or that the head of every man is Christ, and the head of every woman is the man, and the head of Christ is God. Okay, so in my immature consciousness, right, I recognize that there is an order that happens when people are aligned in Christ. Okay? God is here, Christ is here, the man is here, the woman is here. As long as all of this is happening in love, perfect order. Perfect order. Why? Because the woman is the weaker vessel and the man is the protector and the provider. And as long as he's plugged into his Christ consciousness, which is the character of God, now there's no problem to this in the physical. Do you see how it gets jacked up if the man isn't plugged into Christ and he thinks he has lordship over the female? Now we have a problem because he's looking at it from the perspective of, well, I'm above the woman and I believe in God, right? But you can believe in God and not be plugged. Well, you can cognitively believe that there's a God and not be plugged into Christ consciousness. That's spiritual righteousness. Okay. So, in the spiritual application of all of this, how does this play out? God, the all, the law. Christ consciousness, what I tap into as something plugged into the all, the law, that is uniquely mine. My human is the provider, protector, the one that is right here. And my spirit, the feminine, is inside of my masculine, the human. Same pecking order, two totally different levels of maturity. Okay. Well, that came out a lot simpler than I thought it was going to. Okay. But I would have you know that, okay, just read that. Every man praying or prophesying, having his head covered, dishonoreth his head. But every woman that prayeth or prophesieth with her head uncovered dishonors her head, for that is even all one as if she were shaven. For if the woman be not covered, let her also be shorn. Shorn. Let's see what shorn means. Sheared. Okay. Oh, past tense of shear. Okay, but if it be a shame for a woman to be shorn or shaven, let her be covered. For a man indeed ought not to cover his head, forasmuch as he is the image and glory of God, but the woman is the glory of man. Okay, guys, I might have to sit with this for just a second and see what Papa wants to tell us through all this. Okay, so here's what's coming up. Here's what's coming up, guys. If I am in my human and I am praying and prophesying and I'm not covered in my understanding of Christ consciousness and God, then I'm doing it in my own strength. Right? So let me go back up. Every man praying or prophesying, having his head covered, dishonors his head. Okay, hold on. I just said that backwards then. Hold, please. Having his head. Oh, let's look up what head. Because I think hold, please. Probably from the primitive, the sense of seizing, the head most readily taken hold of literally or figuratively. The head, okay, the head, both man, often of animals, since the loss of the head destroys life. His word is used in the phrase relating to capital and extreme punishment. Oh, metaphorically, anything supreme, chief, prominent. Of person, master, lord. Okay, so I was understanding it right from the perspective of if every man praying or prophesying, having his head covered, dishonors his head. Having his head covered dishonors his. Oh, because guess what? Oh, no. That's the same. Okay, guys, I'm not really. Okay, I'm going to tell you what's coming up. But again, it's not matching these words because I'm sitting here going, okay, God, like when I went back and reread that, I said it backwards. So what am I missing? And God's like, just say what I'm telling you to say. I was like, shit. But it doesn't make sense as to what this is saying. And God's like, okay, Lori, not everything is like word for word. I want you to get the context of what I'm saying. So, okay. So I'm going to tell you what's coming through. It's not going to match word for word, but here's what I'm getting. If I'm praying and prophesying in my human only, I am not representing the fullness of our integration humans. I'm not representing the proper ticking order. And therefore I dishonor the ticking order. Okay? If I'm a woman Well, if I'm in my feminine, in my spiritual, and I'm not honoring the human experience and who's in front of me, I dishonor the pecking order. Right? So what would that look like? Okay, cool, because the example is coming through, which is really cool. So let's say, for example, somebody's sitting in front of me, and we talked about this yesterday, as far as like, if I'm functioning in my maturity in Christ consciousness as love, I will relate from the place of how God is communicating to me to communicate to the person in front of me. Okay? Which is the law, my unique consciousness plugged into Christ in me, my human, my spirit. Okay? If I'm prophesying not in that order, now I might be getting spiritual wisdom, but I'm talking to an immature person, which is dishonoring the order, right? And also, if I'm in my spirit and I'm not honoring that the person in front of me is different in their consciousness, I'm not honoring the order, right? So the covering is the law. The end all be all covering is the law. This is how all of reality, spiritual or physical, works. And then if we understand this, and we understand we're all uniquely playing out that law based on the consciousness that we're plugged into, Christ in us, then our human and our spirit can play out love based on everything being in right order. Okay? So, how all of those words mean what just came up, that's none of my business. That's what God told me to say. So, there you go. Okay, moving on. Because guys, again, I'm not so much like this Bible study is not so much about like what did it say back then when it was written? How do I apply the eternal wisdom in this to my today's life? Right? And we know that the thing that passes through this entire book so far is be plugged in, and everything else takes care of itself. Okay? But I love that God is like, okay, but I want to tell you how it works so you're not a victim to me. Right? Because if all we ever did was go, well, God said so, and we never understand the character of God based on how it works, then we just stay a victim to God, and we're really not living out our power. We're not really living out Christ in me. We're living out the law of God, which is not the fulfillment, right? Because that's what Jesus said. I didn't come to abolish the law of God, how it works. I came to fulfill it based on what? Relationship. Yeah. So we get both in the Bible. We get the law and how it works, and how then we apply it to our personal life. Okay. But every woman that prayeth, for if the woman be okay, for a man indeed ought not to cover his head. Okay. For the man is not of the woman, but the woman of the man. Okay. For the man is not of the woman, but the woman of the man. Neither was the man created for the woman, but the woman for the man. Now, again, you guys, we're mature believers. So we're not talking about physical penises and vaginas right now. We're talking about the energy of the masculine and the energy of the feminine. What's that? My human is the masculine, my spirit is the feminine. Right? So I have this body that then through this body comes my spiritual experience. Okay. What's actually really cool about this, you guys, that I'm getting right now, which is really cool because I've never actually like had this awareness before, So often we are, oh gosh, guys, this makes me want to cry. Okay. So often in most religions, we hear about the wrongness of our human or the wrongness of the physical, right? So much so that even if you look at like ancient religions like Gnosticism, they basically said, if you can't see it, that's good, that's God. If you can see it, it's evil, it's the devil. So they were trying to escape their body all the time, right? When we think about having spiritual experiences where we go out into the ethers, right? Let me pray and let me, connect to something that's not this body. And we try to escape the human. Guys, we even do this when we have this idea that the best of life is to come after we die, right? We're doing all this human experience just to die and get to heaven, right? But that's not what Jesus said. He said, on earth as it is in heaven. Not that I take you out of the world, but I equip you in the world. Day 6, Genesis 1, I think 31, day 6. What did God do before the sun went down? He didn't just say it's good. Every other day he said, man, what I just created, it's good. Day 6, guess what he said? It's very good. It's very good. And guys, if we look at the Bible, not in chronological order, if you go back to theologians, they'll tell you that chapters 2 through whatever, 4, anyway, the whole exchange of the serpent and Eve actually happened on day 2. Wait, what? Yeah. If you look at theology, they'll tell you Genesis isn't chronological order. That it was actually day 2 that all that happened. Day 6, God said it's very good. Everything that was created was already created by the end of day 6, and God said it's good. So even if, let's just pretend, right? Let's just pretend. Because again, you guys, I used to believe that that was 24 hours. I don't know that I believe that anymore. But I did when I was immature, right? I don't know that it has to be 20. I'm not saying it wasn't 24 hours. I'm saying it could have not been. Okay. Here's my point. Even if all of what happened after day 6, it was still already created and God said it's good. It's very good, which means guess what? So was the serpent. There's something good in it for the bigger picture. Right now, if you're sitting there saying, well, I know because blah, 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 and that can't be right. Okay, Job, right? That was Job's problem. He thought he knew who God was until he got the end of his rope. And God was like, dude, you weren't here when I started the foundations of the earth. You can't know in your human finite mind, right? This is our spiritual righteousness. Yeah. So when we recognize that when we look at our maturity and we recognize that part of our maturity is in letting go what we thought we knew, the more mature we are, the less we know. We think the more we know, the more mature we become. It's the opposite. Just like Jesus kept saying, everything's the opposite of what it appears to be, guys. If you want to be the leader, you have to be a follower. If you want to sit at the front of the table, put yourself at the back of the table, right? If you want to become mature, know nothing, right? Actually, wasn't that yesterday or the day before where it says, if you think you know something, you don't know anything, right? So when we think about the fact that all of that God created, he said it's very good. Okay, now guys, all of a sudden I'm like, what the hell am I talking about? Okay, because I'm coming back to this verse now. Okay, are you ready? Because the verse says, neither was the man created for the woman, but the woman for the man, right? So, guys, here's our human. A part that our human was here and the physical was here. And then God said, plugging in the spirit, putting the spirit inside the man. That's good. This is the order that it works. The man comes first. My consciousness of my human comes first. And then I have this spiritual part of me that comes alive within me. That means this is just as good as this, guys. That's the point. Why would God take something good and go, I think I'll put it inside of something that's shit? He didn't do that. He's like, hey, this is so good. Let's put some more goodness in it. It's very good. This is good. This is good. Integrated, very good. Yeah? Okay. I think the whole point of what I'm saying right here, you guys, is if we don't recognize that our human experience is just as sanctified as our spiritual experience, we still don't live fully. Because until I don't have a human body, I have a human body. And if I'm disregarding my human body, I'm not living in the fullness of what's available. Yeah? Okay. For this cause ought the woman to have power on her head because of the angels. Nevertheless, neither is the man without the woman, neither the woman without the man in the law. Remember, if we replace the word Lord with law, what did this just say? The man is neither is the man without the woman and the woman without the man. Guys, that's what makes us whole, is the integration of our human and our spirit. My human plugged in. Guess what, guys? The physical is the representation of the spiritual. That's why men have a wiener and women have a vagina. I know. It's so silly, but it's so true. Because guess what? The woman can't create without the man plugging in. The spirit can't create without the goodness of the human being plugged in. Right? Do you guys get this? So often, this is why we separate. This is what I love so much about teaching manifestation in this context. Because so often in our spiritualness, we think that spirituality is absent of materialism. So we go, oh, I'm all spiritual and it's okay that I don't have $1 million and it's okay and we should feed the poor and we should do all these things. Right? But what was Jesus's example? Right? When Mary took the oil and poured it all over Jesus's feet. And what did Judas do? What are you doing, woman? Do you know how many poor people we could have fed with that? And Jesus was like, back off, Jack. You'll always have the poor people to do shit for. I'm here. Honor me. And he didn't do it all douchey like I just said it because, but because he was way humble and I'm still not, right? But the point I'm making is this, you guys, is if we don't honor our human, we're not integrated. And then we don't manifest what God says is available. Do you know that if we look back in the Old Testament, everyone was filthy, stinking rich? All of our forefathers, Abraham, rich, Isaac, rich, Job, rich, all the examples of them had more than enough. Solomon, why is this man on the planet? Right? He would make pens out of gold just because. No, I don't know. They didn't have pens back then. I mean, like pens we have, but you guys know what I'm saying. Like, he did shit with gold just because he could. We're not supposed to be apart from physical pleasures. We're just not supposed to be apart from physical pleasures without being plugged in. And guys, that's the beauty of understanding the law, that we're 100% human and 100% spirit. Because if we only have the physical, we're missing something. But if we only have the spiritual, we're missing something. Right? Now, you might have come to the planet to live minimally. You might have come to the planet to live in a tiny house with 3 cups and your dog. And if that brings you joy, then that's what you came to the planet to have. But don't judge someone else who came to the planet to represent material abundance plugged in, and then say, oh, well, that person's greedy because they live in a mansion. Mind your own business, figure out what brings you joy, plug in, do that. That doesn't make them wrong and you right, because if you're right and they're wrong, guess what? Now you're in your spiritual righteousness, which means you're not plugged in. Because plugged in, we can't judge. Right? This is where somewhere in Revelation, it talks about when we all get to heaven, like some people are going to be up here and some people are going to be down here. But guess what? In heaven, we won't care. On earth, as it is in heaven, I can step into that now. I can live in that now. Which means if someone else is called to be a billionaire, and I'm totally content with my 3 cups, that's heaven. Yes. If I'm judging, I'm not in heaven yet. Yeah. On earth as it is in heaven. Okay. So the man can't be without the woman, and the woman can't be without the man. Now, can we live in a consciousness that separates it? Yes. But can it ever be fully true? No. Only in my consciousness is there separation. Only in my consciousness is there separation. Which then makes it manifest out here according to what? What I believe, my consciousness. Right? But my spirit can't be without my human, and my human can't be without my spirit. I'm already there. Right? What's really cool about one of the things that we teach is in the black phase, right? We've talked about that, the black phase, the white phase, and the red phase. The black phase, we're all enmeshed and entangled, right? And then we separate what's my human, what's my spirit, what are the laws of my human, what are the laws of my spirit. And then after I separate it and I understand, now I can integrate it. And now I know what's my spirit, I know what's my human, and I know how to move forward in it. Which is why it goes from the black phase, the white phase duality to the red phase, which is as me. Christ as me as Christ. Yeah, because it's integrated and now they're just flowing as one. But I have to separate it so I understand what's what. It's kind of like if you're used to being in a codependent relationship, this is what it looks like. And you don't know where you end and they start, and it's gross. But when you start separating, wait, what's mine and what's theirs? Now you can still be in relationship with them, but now there's a healthy relationship instead of an enmeshed relationship. Cool, right? Same thing with our human and our spirit. Okay. For as the woman is of the man, even so the man is by the woman, but all things of God. Wait, what? You mean everything that Jesus did on the cross is just showing us that we're all already in God? Yeah. And so what is this all about? The consciousness of experience. I can't know love until I've known not love. I can't choose until I've been given choice. And if there is no choice, then I'm just a victim and then I have to love God by obligation. And that's not love, right? Judging yourselves, it is comingly that a woman pray unto God uncovered. Doth not natural, doth not even natural itself teach, nature itself teach you that if a man has long hair, it is a shame unto him. But if a woman has long hair, it is the glory of her, for her hair is given her for a covering. Oh, guys, guess what? Okay, again, I'm like, okay, this is what's coming through. Part of me is like, how does that even relate? This is what's coming through though. Okay. Our covering is our masculine, the human, the covering. The female without a covering, the masculine, doesn't work well. And again, it goes back to this is how it relates. It goes back to what we were talking about earlier, right? I need my human and my spirit together because then I can relate in love in relationship to where that person is in their consciousness, because that's what makes it love. But if I'm doing it just in my spirit, then I'm not functioning in love according to other people's consciousness, right? So then how does that play out, right? Again, then I'm eating meat in front of somebody that I need to not be eating meat in front of because they're immature. This is what it goes back to. How do I relate in love in my human? Yes. And if I'm only relating in my spirit without my human, now I'm a douche because I'm like, everybody should think like me. And now I'm in my cod complex. You should eat meat because I know I'm free to eat meat. That's not love. Yeah. Okay. But if any man seems to be contentious, if any man seems to be contentious, we have no such custom, neither the church of God. Yeah, guys. And what's contentious? Contentious. It's exactly what we just talked about. Are you being a douche? If you're being a douche, you're being contentious. You're trying to be right. You're trying to be right in your consciousness of how you're functioning. Stop being a douche. You're not actually functioning plugged in. Now, in this that I declare unto you, I praise you not that ye come together, not for the better, but for the worse. For the first of all, when ye come together in the church, I hear that there be division among you, and I partly believe it. For there must be also heresy among you, that they which are approved may be made manifest among you. Ooh, oh, this is deep. Are you guys ready for this one? At first, when I read the first verse, or I mean, the first part of that, where it's like, not for the better, but for the worse. Okay, contrast. Guys, I love when God has me say something. I'm like, didn't I just say that? I cannot know love until I've known not love. I can't know peace until I've known contention. And what if, just like the Pharaoh and Moses, right? This was one of the verses that I used to never understand. Like, why would God harden the Pharaoh's heart? I'm like, that seems so jacked up. Guess what, guys? Let's go right back to what we were just talking about with Job. If you think you know something, you don't know anything. So what does it all boil down to? Plug in, and then you can understand even what your human cognitive can't understand. Well, what is that? Contrast. Contrast from the perspective, and right back to what we talked about in the garden. Guys, you can't choose God until without the presence of the serpent. You can't choose God without a Satan. Because then guess what? You're just a robot. That's not choice, and that's not love. If there was never a Satan, you would just be a robot to God, and that's not love. That's not relationship. Free choice is the only way that we can love. And so that's basically what this is saying. What if the law is made up so that people are douches on purpose? Why? How do you know a nice person? How do you know how to be a nice person? How do you know what love feels like unless somebody's been a douche to you? How do you know if you're expressing love unless you've been a douche? So cool, right? What if nothing's gone wrong? What if nothing went wrong in the garden? What if it happened exactly the way that it was supposed to happen? Based on what? Free will. God wasn't all bent out of shape when Eve ate the apple. Everything happened according to plan. Because guess what, guys? I can't know myself uniquely unless I separate. I love, this is the example that I give. So I should pull up the picture and have it available for when I say this, because I think it's hilarious. So I have this picture of me in between both my kids. Both my children are huge humans. Okay, I'm not a short person. I'm like almost 5'8", right? But both my kids are 6'2". And they're both like big humans. So when I stand in between my two children, I'm like, I look teeny. But apart from my two children, I'm not teeny. I take up some space. Guys, I'm so grateful that both my children separated from my womb. I'm so grateful that when I gave birth to my children, I exited them out of my body. What if that's what happened in the garden? God said, I want you to know you for you. I want you to know you apart from me so that then you can know us together. Because you can't know us integrated if we're always enmeshed. The separation of you from me is a gift so that you can choose. Because a gift demanded is no gift at all. So if I demand your obedience, there's no gift in that. If I demand your loyalty, if I make you to only obey me, guys, that's not love. But what love is guess what? The separation only in your consciousness. Guys, you can't get out of the fold. You can't actually be apart from me. I just allow you to experience the separation from me. So what? So that you can choose for yourself if you desire to be in relationship with me. Here's the invitation. Do you want it? That's love. Right? What's that old cliche? If you love something, let it go. If it returns to you, it was yours. Guess who wrote that? I think it was God. Right? Okay. For first of all, when you come together, I hear there's division. For there must be heresy. Okay. When you come together, therefore, unto one place, this is not to eat the Lord's Supper. For in the eating, everyone taketh for others before. Okay. For in eating, everyone taketh before others his own supper. and one is hungry and another is drunkard. Okay, guys, basically, let's look at the practical and the ethereal. Okay, the practical was he was writing, well, actually, now that I'm saying that, I'm like, how do you know it was actually really happening? Somebody just told you that it was really happening. It might not have been really happening. Maybe Paul only wrote it in the ethereal and the symbolic, and somebody just told you. So I don't know for real. So I'll just say this. Basically, the physical picture that's being expressed is don't come to church and do communion hungry, because now you're trying to fill yourself from something that you're just supposed to get a taste of. Okay? He says, fill yourself at home, then show up. Okay, what does that look like? Plug in. Don't show up into the world going, I need you to pay attention to me. I need you to fill me. I need you to do this for me. I need you to show up for me. No, when you're plugged in, now you show up for other people. When you're plugged in, you become a contribution. If you're not plugged in, you're needy. And now you need something outside of you to fill you. When you're plugged in, you're living from the overflowing of abundant life. And now you're a contribution. Now, hear me well. Does that mean that there's not times? Because on the outside, that could look like, oh, I have to pretend like I have it all together and I don't need anything from anyone. That's not what it's saying. It's saying don't be needy. That's different. In relationship, we give and take. In relationship, we give and take, right? Situation that I'm in right now, I'm so MF and plugged in, you just can't even know, because I have to be, right? But are there times where I go to my friends and I go, can I just cry on your shoulder? Can I just get this out of my body? I need this relationship, but I'm not needy. But I want to have human relationship. I want to have human contact. I want to be vulnerable. I want to be known in my human brokenness. But I'm plugged in, so I'm not needy. I'm not over there going, feel me, tell me I'm loved, tell me I need, tell me I'm okay, tell me. That's not what I'm doing. I'm plugged in. I know I'm okay, and I know I'm loved. And my human desires relationship. You know what? I just need to cry on someone's shoulder right now. You guys get this? Two totally different energies. Needing human relationship and being needy, two totally different things. And guess what? When I'm plugged in, the need from the human relationship is healthy. When I'm not plugged in, the need from my human relationship is disgusting and needy. Yeah, very different. Now, again, is it okay that there's people who are needy? Yeah, because they don't know how to plug in yet. But I'm not talking to them. I'm talking to you because you're mature. You already understand this plugged inness, right? Let's go back to in the beginning what it talked about, the difference between an unmarried woman and a virgin. The virgin is the immature that's never been plugged in. The unmarried woman is somebody who's tapped into being plugged in, but isn't currently plugged in. Right? There's a difference. Levels of consciousness. Okay. What time is it? We're done. Okay. Let's start again tomorrow at, which one did we go through? For in eating, every man taketh before his own. Okay, so we'll start at 22. I like to say it out loud because then I remember better. So we'll start at 11:22 and look, 11:22, same. 2 2s, 2 1s. Okay, thank you guys so much for being here. As always, if you have questions, if there's something that I said that you would like more information on. Oh, and I did get a really good question from somebody the other day, and I tried to do a live, and then my internet kept going out. So I will be answering that question, either maybe on a live, or if I remember, maybe I'll do it at the beginning of tomorrow. But either way, it was such a good question that I wanted it available to everyone and not just to her, because it was just such a great question. I think that maybe other people are asking. So I will get on that and get that answered. Until then, thank you, and I'll see you soon.